Have you ever sat around watching videos and wondered, how can I make my stuff look more cinematic? We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you some tips on how you can make your footage look more cinematic. So we're going to start by just taking like 3 clips that I shot earlier today, just sitting here in my office at my desk. I'm putting them on and we're going to take a look at them. I'm going to show you just some quick things that I do to make things look more cinematic. So let's get to it. First thing we've got here is I've got 3 clips, and on each of these you can see I've already cut out some of the sections that I want. So I'm just going to grab just the video only and drag it down here. We're going to leave the sound out, and these are currently 4 or 5 seconds in length, something like that, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so what we've got here is I've got some footage that the frame rate is basically 24 frames per second, but this was shot at 120 frames per second slow-mo with the GH5. So you're going to see this look kind of washed out looking. It's because this was shot with Vlog, which is a really flat profile. And I like that because then I can kind of grade this color-wise to be what I want it to look like. If I want it to look cinematic and not so portrait and bright, I can do that. So let's take a look at these clips real quick and see kind of how they are. And you can see it's about 5 seconds roughly. Nice steady slow-mo. The cool thing about slow motion video and B-roll footage is that slow motion makes everything look super silky and smooth, takes out the jitters. The GH5 has good stabilization anyway. So now we're going to take and one of the things I really like about cinematic footage is the music. To me, that sets the mood for the entire thing. So I've grabbed a piece of footage here, or a piece of music here, and we're going to drop it in here. And I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna cut off some of the beginning of this because there's no music at the start. So let's clear that off so we get to where it kind of starts. And what we're going to do is we're going to time our breaks in between the music just to give it a little bit of a more cinematic feel. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Let's see what this looks like. We're going to go to about right in here. Then we're just going to cut this off. All right, so now we've got a clip with some music, and let's see what this sounds like. So you can see how the clips are going to kind of move with the music. All right. And this is just shots of my computer. How cinematic can that really be? Okay, that's good. So let's talk about other things that make things cinematic. The map box anamorphic look, right? Those black bars that you see at the top and the bottom of the videos. Let's add those in. So we're going to go in and add an adjustment layer. And we're going to drag that on top of our footage. And then we're going to go over here to effects and going to grab crop. And we're going to drag that crop on top of that adjustment layer. Go to effect controls. Here's our crop function. So we're just going to go to the top. We're going to add 12% to the top and 12% to the bottom, which is kind of that general anamorphic look. Now let's look at that footage. Okay, remember that when you put the crop on there, that is just on top of the video. All the original video is still there. You're not truly cutting anything off. So just remember that. Okay, the next thing that I think is really important, you've got music, you've got the map box look, the anamorphic look. The next thing is color grading. Now you can spend an entire lifetime learning color grading. And I'm by no means an expert, but here's kind of my philosophy. I always use an adjustment layer and go over to the color panel, which is the lumetri color. The first thing I do is as long as my exposure looks good, which it does look pretty good here. I think the exposure on these is pretty good for a flat profile. Then you can come in under creative and you can add a LUT if you want to. So let's like grab one. Let's see. Let's look at LUTs. There are a lot of different LUT options out there. Peter McKinnon's got one. There's a Vlog. There's this one called Better Than Raw Hack. It's a good one. So I'm just going to do this. It's a Vlog to Rec 709 LUT. So we're going to pop that LUT on there. And suddenly the color is like really, really strong, almost too intense. All of the LUTs are going to be too intense. So you're going to want to take those down. And I tend to find right around 50% or somewhere in there on the LUT is pretty good. And let's just look and see what we've got now. I find that for a cinematic look, you don't want your colors and contrast to pop too hard. Not in this particular scenario for B-roll. There are times when you want it to. If you're at the beach or you're in a tropical location where the colors are lush and bright, yeah, pop that contrast out. But I like to tone it back for some of this stuff and make it just look smooth, cool, color-wise. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So just in a couple of minutes, you can see some really easy ways in which you can create some B-roll footage that has cinematic look. It's shot with music that sets the mood, colors that kind of set the mood, that anamorphic style that sort of makes it look cinematic. So I hope this is helpful. Give it a shot. If you like these kind of videos, give me some feedback. I'm happy to make more. I hope it's helpful. We'll see you again soon.